I assume you're still probably where I last saw you when we were talking with Phil Manzanera.
Yeah, the same room. It's been painted, I think. That's about the only difference. You wouldn't know that my background is probably the same.
Probably. So hi, have you been well?
Yes, I have. Thank you. Yeah, we've had the weather's been so great lately. We've been out of the beach a lot. I was swimming in the sea at Pihar about 2 hours ago.
Oh, nice one.
So you see what I sacrificed to come and be with you, Marty.
I appreciate it. Now I really feel guilty. All right. Well, that's cool. But
I'm going back out very soon. So yeah, no problem.
Yes. But congratulations on this record. It's pretty cool. So it's called Forenzics. It's Shades and Echoes. It's the thing you're doing with Eddie. And speaking of Phil Manzanera, I from what I understand, he had something to do with this project as well. And it kind of goes back a couple of years and it's been in the works. So give us a little of the old backstory, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, we started it in 2018. So it's not a lockdown album. Although it did merge with lockdowns at certain points. But yeah, I mean, this idea of writing a new song over an old piece had been in the back of my head for many years.
Really?
It was prompted by a remark that Brian Eno made in 1976 in Basing Street Studios in London, where we were making an album with Phil Manzanera producing. And just downstairs was Bob Marley recording Exodus. And so it was a pretty amazing sort of time and place for us. And we come straight in from Australia. We'd been living there for the last year. Anyway, Brian Eno remarked upon this one section of the song called Walking Down a Road. He really liked this one bit, and I think it was 3 minutes 43 in or something like that. And it was an instrumental section, just sort of a floating section. The rest of the song was fairly riff-driven and pretty pell-mell and pretty hectic. And then there was this one kind of moment where it breathed and sort of opened out and was very spacious. And you could see how he was heading fast towards minimalism at that point, and probably thought we should just work on that bit and forget the rest. I don't know. But it sort of stuck in my mind. And then 47 years later, I said to Eddie, why don't we do this? And so he put together this amazing music bed, which was created from looping that section and then adding a few other elements. And it just sounded so good to me. I went away and I rearranged the original lyrics of Walking Down a Road. Sort of did a cut and paste on it, really.
Yep.
And came up with something that felt entirely new to us. And so once we did that, we were off, really. We just wanted to do more of them.
So this is kind of a creative reunion with you and Eddie, isn't it? I mean, obviously you've been hanging out and done gigs and all that stuff, but have you worked this closely together in a while?
We really haven't. I mean, we worked on the Enzo project together, but that was really just me and Neil coming in and singing our songs on that project, where Eddie was orchestrating the songs of Split Enz. And we did a brief tour with that as well, with the orchestras here and in Australia. But no, I mean, when Phil Judd left the band for the second to last time, he left 3 times and came back twice during
doing the math that works. Yeah,
kept it fresh. And so when he left for the second time after our American tour in '76, Eddie and I repaired to my uncle's house in Baltimore and began writing songs. And we wrote My Mistake and a few other things. And then we didn't write again until this. So it's just weird to me that so many years went by. We never thought, let's try that again, because we have a natural ability, I think, to work together well.
Right. Well, I think, I mean, let's face it, creative people are always wanting to do the next new thing. And so the stuff that kind of gets left behind. And so with that in mind, you and I are of similar vintage. Does your age enter into this? Are you thinking more about the past and as opposed or in addition to the future?
I think that's probably true. I was never somebody who did look back. I was, from when I was growing up in Te Amutu right through till, probably the last 5, 6, 10 years ago at the most, I was just propelled, it was like this tight rubber band and I was being released into the world on a daily basis. But yeah, I think Dad's passing away a few years back. He got to 97, and excuse me, he said to me, "Oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that?" Because he had an iPad, and he was going right down the rabbit hole with me and Neil every day.
Right.
And he was astounded by how much stuff there was. And I said, no, Dad. I said, I never look at anything. He said, "Oh, you will, wait till you get a bit older." And so, yeah, it is a common thing, I think, that people start to look back and sort of in a sense of amazement at their life, whether it's been hard or not. It's just, did I really do all that? It just seems so dreamlike. And you pick it apart in your mind and kind of look at various aspects. It becomes quite fascinating to you, I think. And so it did to me. And yeah, I mean, the old songs, I mean, I never listen back to them. But when I do now, the old Split Enz songs from the first few years, they're full of jewels. They're full of moments where, you could easily just take that section and do something with it. And it seemed to become a natural thing for me. And I guess that's why we called it Forenzics, apart from the obvious pun, but it was just also, we are forensically examining, our early music.
And my understanding is that you and Eddie kind of swapped files, and you did a lot of the vocals, the production's his. And, there's kind of a stigma attached to a homemade record that's all files, and this doesn't sound anything like that. I mean, I would believe that this would have been recorded in Abbey Road somewhere or something. I mean, the production on it is amazing. Now, the things that you guys can do these days with whatever it is you're doing, I'm just blown away.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, actually, because Eddie did all of that. I mean, I would literally I'd write the lyrics and sing them straight away. So there's a real fresh intimacy and unforced kind of thing about the vocals, I think. Then I'd send the vocal tracks through to Eddie when I'd written the lyrics, written the tune over these music beds that he would send me. And, a couple of hours later, or maybe a day later, he'd send it back to me and it would sound like $1 million. And, his production techniques have improved hugely over the years. He was always pretty smart, that sort of thing. But he's really enjoying being in front of the computer 7 to 8 hours a day. I think it's hard to get him away from it. He just absolutely loves it. And it's not for me, so I'm glad that he's doing it.
Yeah. And I think I read somewhere where you commented that actually swapping files allows you to work in a different way with somebody, and it kind of takes the ego out of things.
I do find that. Yeah, I do find it's very egoless. When you walk into a room with somebody, you can't help yourself. You're kind of on your best game, and you're on your best behavior, and you're trying to bring the best out of each other. And so magic can happen, and has done countless times over the last 50 years in rock and roll.
Sure.
But there is something about being on your own in a space, writing something, and then just feeling, when the time is right, I'm going to sing that, and then you do, and there's no one watching, there's no one around. I don't know. Then you send it, and they respond just purely from their instincts and from their heart, and there's no in between. There's no social contact. I like it, and maybe it just suits me now.
Yep. Because I would guess back when you're younger, a little encouragement and advice from, say, the engineer or the producer probably helps matters, but maybe at this point you just don't need that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's true. A great producer, even just if they're a charismatic individual that can lift everybody's game. I was thinking the other day about David Tickle, who produced True Colors and the next album as well, and he was 18 when he did True Colors, and
really,
that kind of energy in the studio was fantastic. He'd been working with Mike Chapman and assisting some of the Blondie stuff. And so he brought all that kind of knowledge that he'd been soaking up, in the way you do when you're 18 or 17, he probably was when he did that. And he brought it into Split Enz, with really backs to the wall. This has to be a great record. It's a make or break time for the band. And I think that combination was fantastic for us.
Right. Now, in addition to you and Eddie, there are a few other folks that make appearances on the record, one being Megan Washington, who sings on a track called Rules. So maybe tell me a little bit about that song and about how she fits into the picture.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rules was a song that sort of all pre-written to an extent. It wasn't completely finished, but I had a feeling about it, and it felt to me like it was a song about, meeting somebody in a kind of a secret place. Maybe what you're up to is a little bit illicit. Maybe somebody's having an affair, or somebody's, it doesn't want to be seen. It had that feeling about it to me, and it was like you and me, and I'll protect you. I'll be there for you. And no one needs to ever know about this. It just, I don't know what it's about really, but that was a kind of loose narrative in my head. And when Eddie sent me that music, it just sounded perfect for that kind of mood. So I sang the song over it, and it just sat beautifully on this track. And they hadn't heard me sing, and I hadn't heard them play. So it was just a meeting of two different worlds. And then Megan, it just cried out for a harmony. It cried out for it to be a two-person song, I think. And I've worked with Megan before. She's an Australian singer. She's toured with me, supported me, and she actually co-wrote a song of mine called "The View Is Worth the Climb." It's a title track on an album I did with Jakia King a few years ago. So I knew Megan, and she's great, and she's a great artist, and she's also really funny, and just we get on, we clicked. So yeah, it was an easy fit.
And I also hear some saxophone, especially on "Empty Nest," which I believe is a guy named Mark Dennison. Is that right? Yeah,
Mark is an amazing player. He plays sax, clarinet, flute. And so there's all that kind of those textures interwoven in quite a few of the tracks. He's an arranger in his own right as well. So he comes up with really beautiful chords, and he's a great sense of harmony. And then him and Eddie just bounce off each other, and there it is. It's just nothing beats a real sound in those areas.
And lyrically, what's kind of happening, because the lyrics are yours, what's happening in Empty Nest, there's something about to create, you must destroy. And what are you trying to tell us these days?
There's a certain humor in it. It's sort of a dark humor because, when parents are left, finally, as they all must be, it is a kind of a sad time. I watched other people go through it and didn't think twice. But now that it's happening to us, Harper wants to head off back to the States. Our daughter Elliot is finishing up, a course here, and the traveling thing is obviously up in the air a bit. But we know that they're going to leave the nest, and Harper already has, and it's just weird. It's a weird time. It's a time of there's a slight amount of grieving and getting used to it, and so I just wanted to take it on in a more defiant way, rather than kind of like woe is us. The parents crying and crying themselves to sleep. I wanted it to be more like, well, hey, let's embrace this. Yes, things change. You've got to destroy everything in the end, and then move on and create something new out of that energy. Let's just, I don't know. There was some of that mood in it for me, and it still has a melancholy. Yeah, I like where it landed. I think it has a kind of a nice bittersweet quality. Yeah.
Yep. Kids growing up, man. Crazy.
Yeah, it sure is. And I mean, with COVID out there, you're just unleashing them into a world of complete unknowns. But there you go. Can't hold them back.
There you go. You don't want to. And I find that they're kind of like boomerangs. They come back on their own anyway.
That's the theory. Yeah.
Hopefully. Europe Speaks. Have you got some political thing going on there?
I think that there was a bit of Europe on the record, because you've got Première Fois where I sing in French for the first time.
Yes.
And Europe Speaks. I think we were getting all those early photos through from Europe, and some of them were devastating to see. It just brought Europe closer to me, and also in the sense that Brexit was happening, and it just became what is Europe? And then we think about all the lives that were lost over there during both world wars last century. All New Zealand lives, young men that went over there, including our dad. And I was looking through Dad's war diaries as well. And there's a couple of lines in that song that I took from Dad's diaries. Just a whole mess of things. I mean, the start of it is sort of like a loose appropriation of a Tennyson poem. This old teacher at school called Brother Stephen mercilessly drummed into us, the use of alliteration. And the bare black cliffs clanged round him was one of his favorites, and it just burned into my mind.
There's nothing like a good alliteration. I love them. Yeah, absolutely.
And, so a lot of that, and then just playing with that, and I've been reading a bit of Samuel Beckett, and on and on. It just goes on and on, that rabbit hole.
Right. Well, I mean, you just put out the record with Phil, Caught It by the Heart a few months ago, and now you got this happening, which is kind of happening at the same time. It seems like a creative burst, but and of course people like to think that people kind of run out of energy as they get older. It doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, I'm running into more and more people who are just as strong as ever in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. So, do you feel differently? Do you create differently now than you would have, say, 20 years ago?
Yes and no, I suppose, because of the internet and being able to sort of exchange files. There's a whole different process going on. It's very liberating, and you can work more often and in more different ways. Where once you would have had to, the most you could have hoped for would have been to have sent a cassette or a CD of demos to somebody, and then you would have had to travel where that, to a common place and studios and all the rest of it. It's so much easier and so much better now. So therefore it does open up opportunities. There's the 2 records you've mentioned. I've also made another one with Irish songwriter Andy White, which will hopefully come out later in the year. So there's like a trio of duos going on.
Nice.
And it just hasn't been rushed or forced, or, it's been very unhurried. Days or weeks, even months will go by and not much is happening. Then you'll have a really fully concentrating, burst of work for a month or so, and then you've got it, and then it's really just a matter of getting somebody great to mix it.
Yep.
In Eddie's case, he mixed it. The one I did with Andy, we had John Leckie mix that in England. And the one with Phil Manzanera and Mike Body in England mixed that one. So as long as somebody knows how to pull it all together, it's possible to do a lot of different projects now.
Yeah, I like the trio of duos. Do it different? Do you turn into a different creative being when you're on a one-to-one with somebody else rather than being in a band or whatever, or even solo?
I mean, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I love collaboration. I've learned that more and more over the years. So I think, working with somebody else for me is always the best. Like I've done a lot of good work with Neil over the years.
Sure.
Now with Eddie, Phil, whoever. It works really well for me to bounce off somebody. I've also discovered this other way of writing, which is to write a song over a music bed. Somebody sends you some chords and a beat or whatever, and then you write a song, write a tune, write some lyrics. I hadn't really done that previously. So I find that very exciting because they don't say anything. You say, well, don't tell me anything. Don't give me a name. Just send me some music. And then you immediately respond to it in a way like, because it makes you feel something. Then you've probably got a lyrical theme straight away, if you like.
Yeah. And when you're going back listening, because a lot of these songs obviously are built on old snippets of songs from the past, old Split Enz tunes. Yeah. Did that make you rethink those songs or rethink those times, or what went through your head?
Well, you can't sort of revisit, times in your life. You can wonder about them and ponder them and try and pull together a few memories, and a certain feeling will come back. I mean, when I listen to those early Split Enz tracks from Mental Notes, Second Thoughts, I definitely feel something. I feel there's a poignancy, there's a sort of almost a pathos feel. Your emotions are stirred, and then when you write something over that, it's like you're actually with those people in a funny sort of way, like you reconnect. Yeah. I mean, especially say with Phil Judd, because he and I started the band and we don't see each other anymore. It hasn't been an easy relationship, even though we were incredibly close. And so it's a way of getting an intimacy back into that relationship, without having to actually call each other up or anything. It's just, I can feel him. And when he hears the tracks, because we had to send them all to him, of course, to make sure he was cool with it. He can feel it. He can feel me. So, I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. If you had to kind of check in with other co-writers and things, because these songs.
Oh yeah, we had to clear everything. There's little traces of things on the tracks that Split Enz fans will really enjoy, I think, because even some of Eddie's keyboard parts, they might just be the tiniest little celeste in the upper octaves, so you can barely hear it. Then you'll suddenly realize, oh, that's playing the counter melody from the outro of 129. We really enjoyed that. We didn't do it to be tricky. We just found ourselves doing stuff.
Right.
This was coming back. Yeah.
So what do you kind of hope for this when it's being released? It's coming out beginning of February.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've learned long ago not to hope for anything, no expectations, but it feels good. I mean, we've had some great comments so far, and it may be that we'll do a Forenzics too. I mean, we did make a lot of tracks, and we haven't used them all. So Eddie and I are just starting now to sort of just continue the process in a really slow, kind of unhurried way. So I hope people see it as a a project that's going to have some life and some legs, and I hope they'll really enjoy it, and it'll take them back, perhaps. I mean, people come up to me from occasionally, and they'll talk about a gig they saw in 1975 or something.
Yep.
They remember it so
Yep.
intensely.
Yep.
And it's that thing of it's supposed to be so ephemeral, on to the next town, dust, ashes, but actually it's not for some people. They remember it forever, and I love that. I love that about it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the older gigs that are ones that stay with you the most intensely.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been to gigs in '75, and I probably remember them better than the ones I saw last year. So,
yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's great.
Yes. All righty. Well, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me about this. The record sounds fantastic, and then there's lots to get into on it. So I think people should.
Cool.
It's the kind of thing that they need to spend some time with and really dig in deep. So
yeah, let's hope.
Yep.
That sounds
All
cool.
Right. Yep. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot, Marty. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.